It begins on a quiet street where porch lights glow against a curtain of drizzle. The Keller house stands motionless, windows open, curtains fluttering. A dog barks from somewhere inside, hoarse and desperate. When police respond to a neighbor's concern, the air feels heavy, electric, as if holding a secret. Detective Rachel Voss steps out of her cruiser, eyes scanning the house like she already knows what she'll find, or what she wants. The front door is unlocked. Inside, dinner plates sit half-finished, a television hums static, and a faint metallic smell lingers beneath the scent of burnt candles. Something about this silence doesn't feel natural. It feels staged. Morning light seeps through gray clouds as the Keller property becomes a scene of quiet chaos. Yellow tape flutters, neighbors gather in silence, and detectives move through rooms with gloved precision. Rachel's voiceover guides us through the unfolding confusion. No forced entry, no sign of struggle, no missing valuables. Every detail feels intentional, like someone wanted it to look ordinary. Then a chilling detail. All family phones left charging on the counter, each showing the same unread text. "We made it." "Don't worry." Sent from Mary Ann's phone at 9:47 p.m., Rachel interviews Lila, whose voice trembles as she recounts the last time she saw the Kellers. Sunday evening. Children laughing on the porch, Mary Ann waving from the doorway. Nothing strange except the car engine she heard hours later, long past midnight. Lila swears she saw headlights leaving the Keller driveway, but only one silhouette inside. Rachel listens, eyes fixed, then quietly asks, "Are you sure there was only one person?" Back at the station, Rachel studies the Keller file under harsh fluorescent light. Each photo, smiling family portraits, vacation snapshots, kids at school, begins to feel like evidence rather than memories. Marcus slides a report across the desk. Tom Keller's credit card used at a gas station 50 miles north, 12 hours after the family vanished. Rachel's heart tightens. She knows they're no longer investigating a disappearance. They're chasing a trail. Before dawn, Rachel drives toward the location of the gas station hit. Through the windshield, streetlights streak across the wet glass. Her mind replays the empty dinner table, the muddy footprints, the message, "We made it." But something in her gut says otherwise. In her narration, we hear the first thread of doubt turn into conviction. Families don't just vanish. They're erased. Morning light cuts through thick mist as Rachel and Marcus arrive at the rural gas station. The world feels cold, emptied, and drenched in yesterday's rain. The clerk behind the counter blinks under flickering fluorescent light, replaying security footage that shows Tom Keller's car rolling in at 10:04 a.m. Tom steps out, calm, almost polite. He buys coffee and fuel, smiles, then drives north, alone. Rachel leans closer to the monitor, watching his reflection in the glass. For a second, she swears she sees movement in the back seat. It's barely there. A faint outline. A shadow. Maybe just light. But her gut tells her it isn't nothing. Rachel replays the footage again and again, each time slowing it down, freezing frames, searching for that flicker. Marcus insists it's glare, nothing more. But Rachel's instincts rebel. They follow the car's trail north. Roadside cameras, toll booths, nowhere stops. Then, a pattern emerges. Every recorded timestamp falls precisely 10 minutes apart, as if someone wanted to leave a breadcrumb trail. "He wanted us to find him," Rachel mutters. But not yet. Back at the Keller home, forensics teams dig deeper. They find faint traces of blood near the basement drain. Too little for panic, too much for peace. DNA results confirm it's Mary Ann's. The discovery cracks Rachel's composure. She grips the table edge as Marcus steadies her shoulder. In her voiceover, she reflects, "People hide darkness in plain sight. Sometimes love isn't a shield, it's a disguise." Rachel and Marcus visit Mary Ann's workplace. A quiet library filled with soft lamplight and the scent of old paper. Her coworkers remember her as gentle but withdrawn in her final weeks. One recalls a conversation. Mary Ann had asked how to erase online accounts, in case something happened. Rachel's pen freezes mid-note. Did she say she was afraid? The coworker nods, eyes glistening. Yes, of him. That night, Rachel reviews Mariana's recovered phone data. Messages to a contact saved only as appeared days before the disappearance. Fragments of fear disguised as small talk. He's not sleeping. Keeps checking the basement. Keeps checking the basement. I hear him talking to someone down there. Then the final message. If something happens, look under the stairs. Rachel looks up at Marcus, voice steady but trembling at its edges. We missed something. Rachel and Marcus return to the Keller neighborhood, a once friendly row of homes now hushed by fear. The cul-de-sac feels smaller, the air heavier. Neighbors watch through half-closed curtains as police knock on doors. Rachel interviews each one, piecing together fragments of truth that don't quite fit. One neighbor remembers seeing Tom arguing with someone days before the disappearance. Another swears the Keller's light stayed on all night, even after they were gone. Every story contradicts the last, yet they all agree on one thing. There was something wrong with that house long before the family vanished. Lila Hayes sits on her porch, cigarette trembling in her fingers as she tells Rachel she heard voices in the Keller basement a week before they disappeared. A man's voice, but lower than Tom's, she whispers. And then a scream. Short, like someone was surprised. Rachel studies her face, fear mixed with guilt. Lila admits she didn't call police. She thought it was just another argument. Rachel's tone turns gentle but firm. You heard a scream, Lila. That's not nothing. The neighbor nods, tears forming, realizing her silence might have cost lives. Another neighbor, David Monroe, a retired truck driver, insists he saw Tom Keller driving away that night, headlights cutting across the street at 2 a.m. He waved at me. David recalls shaking his head. Waved. But what unnerves Rachel most isn't his memory of the wave, it's what came after. David claims he saw a flicker of movement in the back seat, a silhouette that ducked as the car turned the corner. Rachel's heart pounds. Could you tell if it was a child? She asks. David hesitates. I don't know, but it wasn't him. At the edge of town, Rachel interviews a local gas station attendant who remembers Tom visiting weeks before the disappearance. Always late, always nervous. He'd fill up and sit in the car for a while, the man says, talking to himself like he was arguing with someone who wasn't there. The clerk's memory adds weight to a growing theory. Tom Keller wasn't planning an escape. He was planning something else entirely. Rachel's narration cuts in softly. Sometimes madness hides best in routine. Every errand, every smile, every quiet drive. Rehearsals for the final act. Late evening. Rachel sits in her car outside the Keller house, engine idling. Her eyes drift across the dark windows, the overgrown lawn, the flickering streetlight that blinks in perfect rhythm. On, off, on, off. She can't shake the feeling that something, or someone, is still inside. Her phone buzzes. The lab results from under the stairs are back. The sample isn't human. It's animal blood mixed with cleaning fluid. Someone wanted to fake violence. Someone wanted to buy time. Rachel exhales sharply, realization sinking in. The Kellers didn't vanish. They were removed. The Keller house feels different now. Each creak echoes longer. Each shadow sits heavier. Rachel returns alone, driven by Marianne's final text. Look under the stairs. Her flashlight sweeps over the basement walls, the smell of damp concrete and old paint sharp in the air. She kneels, tapping her knuckles along the wooden panels beneath the staircase until one sound changes, hollow. Rachel preys at the edges until a small square of wood lifts free, revealing a dark metal latch beneath. Her breath catches. Whatever Tom Keller hid here, he wanted it found last. Rachel pulls the latch. A low grinding sound fills the air as part of the wall shifts forward. Inside, a narrow crawl space stretches into darkness. The beam of her flashlight reveals old crates, torn blankets, and something else. A camera tripod facing a worn mattress on the floor. Rachel's breath quickens. Dust dances like ash in the air as she steps inside, careful not to disturb anything. On the ground, she finds a tape recorder, its buttons smeared with grime. She presses play. The first sound is breathing, slow, deliberate, male. Then Tom Keller's voice. They said the house would protect us. She calls Marcus to the scene. Within minutes, the basement fills with officers, the sound of radios crackling under tension. Marcus studies the space, brow furrowed. It's not just a hiding spot, he says quietly. It's a setup. They find photographs pinned to the wooden beams, blurred, out-of-focus images of the Keller family sitting at dinner, sleeping, playing in the yard. Every picture taken from inside the house. Rachel realizes someone had been watching them for months. A surveillance pattern, perfectly framed, from the perspective of someone who never wanted to be seen. Back upstairs, Rachel spreads the photographs across the dining table. The same table where dinner plates once sat untouched. The images show dates in the corner. Each progressing closer to the night they vanished. In every photo, Tom's eyes seem distant, almost aware of the camera. Then the final photo, taken from outside, through the window, shows only Marianne and the children, smiling, unaware. No, Tom. The timestamp reads 9:43 p.m., 4 minutes before the last message was sent from her phone. Rachel whispers, "He didn't take them. He watched them leave." As the officers clear out, Rachel stays behind. The house creaks softly, settling under its own memories. She sits on the basement stairs, voice recorder in hand, replaying Tom's words again. They said the house would protect us. There's something strange in the background. A rhythmic tapping sound. She isolates the audio and listens closer. The sound isn't random. It's Morse code. Her eyes widen. It spells one word, cabin. Rachel exhales shakily. Tom hadn't hidden from his family. He'd hidden them somewhere else. The road to the cabin is little more than 2 ruts through wet pine needles, the kind of path you only find if you already know it's there. Rachel drives slow. Windows cracked to taste the air, listening for a generator, a radio, any sign of life. Marcus reads the map grid from the Morse note again, the word cabin circling in both their minds like a drum beat. The trees thin and the roof comes into view, tin panels dulled by moss and rain. No smoke, no tracks fresh enough to comfort them. Rachel kills the engine. Wind moves through branches with a low warning sound. The lock on the door is new. The wood around it is not. She presses her palm to the handle and feels cold metal, then steps back, voice steady. We go slow. No surprises. Marcus nods, shoulders set. Somewhere far off, a crow cries once, as if counting them in. Inside, the cabin holds its breath. The generator coughs once as Marcus flips a switch, then settles into a soft hum. Rachel moves through the single room with her light low, tracing a life made of secrets. A metal cot, a nailed board for a table, maps of county roads pinned with tacks in perfect lines, a row of prepaid phones in a tin box. On the wall, a cork strip with photos, school pickup lines, the Keller yard at dusk, a face in a kitchen window that seems to be looking back at the lens. A receipt book shows cash withdrawals, small and steady, like drops filling a bucket. Under the cot, a plastic tub holds a camcorder and labeled tapes. The dates climb toward the night. The family vanished. Rachel sets the camcorder on the table, breath tight. He rehearsed this, she says. He planned it like a route. Back at the station, they thread the camcorder into an old deck and let the first tape roll. Static blooms, then steadies on a kitchen table. Marianne's voice enters before her face does. Soft and tired. A whisper meant to stay hidden. She speaks about drills that were not called drills, about locks that were not called locks, about the night Tom asked everyone to play a quiet game that never ended. A chair leg scrapes. A child asks if they can sleep in their own beds yet. Mary Ann shushes gently. She looks into the lens and something fragile in her steadies. "If you're hearing this," she says, "we didn't make it back before he changed the rules." The camera tilts. Footsteps pass. A second voice cuts in. Tom's calm, careful, close to the mic. "We have to keep them safe," he says. "You know what happens if we don't." "I'm sure it's a disaster. Or the tapes give them shape. The numbers give them motive." Marcus pulls bank records onto the screen. Slow, regular withdrawals from a payroll account into cash, payments to a mailbox store, rental fees for a storage unit by the river, 2 insurance policies updated 10 days before the family disappeared, an alias tucked behind a misspelled name, just enough to slip past a glance. Rachel reads the paper trail like a map through fog. Fuel purchases that match the cabin's distance. Hardware receipts for chains, bins, tarps, items that build a story without ever saying it out loud. She rubs her eyes. "He prepared for every hour," she says. Every excuse, every door. The dates line up with the tapes, with the gas station, with the last text. Each click tightens the loop, and the loop feels like a noose. They return to the woods before dusk, following the creek behind the cabin where the ground holds prints longer. The air smells of wet leaves and rust. Rachel moves ahead, step by careful step, until her light finds a snag of blue fabric on a blackberry thorn. A locket lies in mud a few feet beyond, cracked open to a tiny photo of a smiling porch. She recognizes the porch. She recognizes the smile. Marcus sweeps wider and finds the outline of something dragged where the soil dips and rises again. No body. Not yet. But the path points to a low hill where earth looks newer than it should, sunken just enough to trouble the eye. Rachel feels the shake in her breath and steadies it with her hand. "We stop here," she says. "We do this right." She turns to Marcus. "Call it in." The ground gives way under the first shovel, like it has been waiting to breathe. The hill is quiet except for the scrape of metal and the hush of wind through pine. Rachel stands at the tape, hands still, eyes locked on the place where the soil turns darker. She narrates in a low, steady tone that carries farther than she intends, explaining how fear leaves a pattern and how patterns lead you to truth. A tech calls out. Something soft catches the light. Not a person, but a piece of a life. A sweater thread, blue as evening. Rachel feels the world tilt and correct. She orders silence, then a slow, careful sweep. They uncover proof of planning, not chance. Layered soil, the neat square of a dig site, the trace of lime. She hears Marcus speaking the command voice even, and she thinks not for the first time that endings rarely arrive with thunder. Most just arrive. They find him where the predictable man would be. At his storage unit, door up, hands moving in a rhythm that says routine, not panic. Tom looks smaller in the wide hallway, a careful figure packing an empty bin as if order could save him. Rachel calls his name, voice clear, no anger, no mercy. He turns, measuring the distance, the exits, the odd. Marcus steps in on the right, gentle but immovable. Rachel lays out the path that led here. The crawl space, the tapes, the cabin, the hill. Tom listens with the gaze of someone who believes he is still the smartest person in the room. When the cuffs close, he exhales like a man finishing a job. "You don't understand," he says softly. "I kept them safe." Rachel doesn't look away. "From what?" Tom's answer lands like a cold stone in a quiet pond. "From what we couldn't see." In the interview room, the clock ticks with steady indifference. Rachel sets the rules in a voice as even as the second hand. No lies, no stories, just answers. Tom asks for water and watches the way the surface trembles when he touches the cup. She starts with small truths that cut. The insurance updates, the prepaid phones, the gas station trail laid 10 minutes at a time. Marcus lays photographs on the table in a quiet sequence. The crawl space tripod, the cabin maps, the hill under light. Tom studies each image as if grading a paper. When Rachel plays the tape with the faint Morse, his jaw tightens. When she says the word cabin, he looks at the far wall like it might open. She leans in, voice low. You rehearsed control until it felt like love. For the first time, something flickers across his face. Not remorse, not shock. Recognition. The first break arrives, not with a shout, but a quiet correction. Tom says he never hurt them, and Rachel agrees. You made them disappear instead. She lays out the Last Supper left half-eaten, the staged basement stain, the timed messages, the long rehearsals you could mistake for care. Tom's voice softens into the cadence of a sermon. He talks about threats that don't have faces, about promises whispered by empty rooms, about a house that would keep them if he obeyed its rules. Rachel lets the silence grow until his words sound thin even to him. Then she shows the final still. Marianne by the window with the children, time stamped minutes before the text sent from her phone. They were leaving you, Rachel says. You called it protection. They called it escape. Tom blinks hard. A long breath leaves him. I couldn't let them be taken, he says. So I took them first. He talks for an hour that feels longer. He calls it a plan to save them from a future only he could see. He drew maps, set timers, planted messages, hid money, bought quiet places where no one could reach them. Not even fear. He says the woods listened. He says the house warned him. Rachel does not argue with ghosts. She names choices. She names each step he took to erase a family and call it safety. When the statement is complete and his signature dries, the room loosens its grip. Tom asks if the lights will stay on. Rachel rises, voice soft. They do here? Marcus opens the door. The hall breathes cool air. As they walk Tom out, Rachel's narration lands on the simple truth the case is carved into her. Monsters rarely look like monsters. Most look like people who are sure they're right. The town wakes to a quieter kind of siren. Radios turned low, morning shows, mouthing headlines, porches where people look down instead of across the street. The Keller house becomes a landmark of what if. Flowers lean against the mailbox, rain-streaked cards slipping in their plastic sleeves. A vigil that doesn't know what to pray for. Rachel files her reports with a steadiness that feels borrowed. Hearing again the shovels, the clock, Tom's even breath shaping dangerous words. In her voiceover, she admits the case won't end with a single answer. It leaves fractures that run through neighbors and co-workers and the space between dinner plates. The story is everywhere. In the staged stain, in the tapes, in the map of a mind that called harm protection. And yet, beneath the noise, a simpler question scratches at her. If Marianne was afraid, why did she leave a message that sounded like relief? At arraignment, the hallway fills with cameras that seem to breathe. Tom walks in small, ordinary steps, the kind that make people harder to believe as villains. Rachel keeps her distance, noting details because details don't flinch. The knot of his sleeve, where a thread catches, the way his gaze pauses at each doorway like counting exits is prayer. She doesn't speak to reporters. Marcus stays at her shoulder, quiet ballast. In voiceover, she says trials are designed to answer legal questions, not human ones. A charge sheet can't hold the texture of a house that whispers, or family training itself to be silent. As Tom's lawyer speaks, Rachel's attention drifts to a single evidence photo in her folder. The locket, mud-streaked and open to a porch. She realizes she never checked the hinge. Some locks keep people out, some keep secrets in. Back in the evidence room, Rachel reopens the locket with tweezers and patience. The hinge resists, then gives, revealing a crease no one noticed. A rice-thin strip folded into itself until its only edge. Heat paper. She smooths it under a glass plate, and the ghost comes back. A bus receipt stamped in the hour after the last text, route north to a terminal by the river, paid cash. Her chest tightens, not with shock, but with the feeling of a knot finding its intended place. The ha in Marianne's messages wasn't a person. It was a destination. Harbor House, the shelter whose flyer Rachel remembers from the library corkboard. She calls Marcus, then the shelter. Her voice is soft. She doesn't announce herself as a badge. She asks for a liaison. The line goes quiet, then a measured voice answers. "If you're calling about safety." The voice says, "Well, listen. But we don't confirm names." Rachel asks them to hear a story instead. The meeting is arranged through lawyers and careful steps, in a room without windows where names are traded for initials, and a promise to do no harm. A shelter advocate confirms only what policy allows. A family matching descriptions arrived the night the message went out, stayed briefly, then moved under sealed protection with help from a church van and a court order. No addresses, no reunions, just proof they made a choice. Rachel feels the story tilt again. The final act wasn't Tom's choreography. It was Marianne's courage. A map folded into a locket, a text that read like comfort because it was, a scream neighbors heard that was the sound of leave. Rachel signs a non-disclosure and thanks the advocate for believing in locks that open. On her way out, she calls Marcus. Her voice is lighter than it's been in days. "They weren't erased," she says. "They moved." Night returns to the street where it began. The porch lights glow as if the houses are practicing, saying, "You're safe here." Rachel stands at the curb a while, letting quiet do what questions can't. Her voiceover doesn't promise neat endings. It admits the case left grief and anger in rooms that will feel smaller for a long time. But it also leaves proof that fear can be outmaneuvered, not by force, but by planning and love, and the small bravery of a folded scrap only one person would think to check. She looks up at the Keller windows and decides the house isn't a tomb, it's a witness. Tomorrow will bring court dates and statements and reports. Tonight brings a letter from the shelter, delivered through counsel, saying only that a family is safe and learning how to sleep through storms. Rachel closes her eyes. The wind moves. Somewhere, a porch light clicks on and stays.